My guest today is Ariane Labat, head of the Digital Transformation Unit at the European Commission's Directorate General for International Partnerships. She works on EU digital cooperation across Africa, covering everything from submarine cables and satellite internet to cybersecurity and data centers. The EU's Global Gateway strategy plans to invest 300 billion euros in global infrastructure, with half of that focused on Africa. Ariane and her team are helping to turn the strategy into real projects, building digital infrastructure that is sustainable, secure, and locally useful. In this episode, we talk about how the EU is working with African governments, DFIs, and partners like Smart Africa to shape policies, de-risk investment, and expand critical digital infrastructure. Here's my conversation with Ariane Labat. I live in Kenya, and before you do anything formal, anything in Kenya, you have to ask, how are you? So, how are you, Ariane?
I'm well today, Ville. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good as well. I'm excited to do this interview. Been waiting this for a while, and now really a pleasure to talk with you here. Could you tell more about yourself first?
Thanks a lot, Ville. Yes. So I'm sitting here in Brussels. I'm working on digital transformation partnership with partners that can be anywhere in Africa, but also in other world regions, Latin America or Central Asia, Southeast Asia. Our entire team of approximately 30 people is really committed to these digital partnerships because we see an enormous appetite from partners all across Africa to work with us at this joint challenge of digital transformation.
That's great. That's great. So let's dive into it. What does the EU bring to the table in Africa's digital infrastructure space that other global players don't?
So from the EU side, we have really this kind of shared interest with partners in Africa to make happen a digital transformation that really works for people, that work for businesses, our respective businesses, that work for our respective governments. So it's this alignment of interest that we are after. It's really a convergence of minds of interest that helps us move forward and adapt, to local context or local priorities, what needs to be done first, whether it's a fiber, whether it's an access to a subsea cable, whether it's having robust governance systems for digital transformation. We really have this important approach to really align with mutual interest and go big as a Team Europe from our end. So we really come in full force with our European countries, with the companies we have in our European countries, our different agencies, ministries for ICTs, cybersecurity agencies, space agency. We really combine a jigsaw from our end to be able to respond to the interest across the table, whether it's Southern Africa, Eastern Africa. We really try to adapt to the local context. And we are really passionate. The digital divide is real. We know only 1% of the data centers, I think, are located in Africa. We really need to do a big leapfrog forward and in a way that is definitely sustainable. And again, that works for people. So it needs to provide a secure connectivity linkages. That's also what is a big priority for us. And I think a second important factor from our end is that we want to walk the talk. We want to achieve tangible investments on the ground. So, for instance, to give you some examples, we are moving forward with a very structuring subsea cable investments between Europe, India, and Africa. This is a very concrete example. We are moving forward with satellite connectivity for Africa through the IRIS² constellation. We are working with the EIB to facilitate secure connectivity in Tanzania and Madagascar, etc. So multiple examples, but we really built our progress by learning on the ground how to deliver tangible investments.
Great. That's very holistic approach on the whole digital infrastructure in the continent, and myself working with the digital investment facility, which is obviously part of the bigger picture. I've seen the value in being here, having the hands in the mud, doing concrete things, working with the local companies, and really through that trying to understand what works, what doesn't work, and then really learn also from those experiences, and always try to get better. So you already mentioned sustainability, but what are the steps that EU takes to make sure digital infrastructure projects in Africa are both environmentally sustainable and locally valuable?
So yes, from the EU side, we are working under a big political framing that is called the Global Gateway Strategy. And in that strategy, our presidents and ministers, head of state, have guided us that there are fundamental pillars on which we need to advance together, because that was also agreed with counterparts from Africa side. And digital is one of the big pillar where we need to roll out investment, but likewise in areas like sustainable energy. So we really have this thinking from the get-go that we need to achieve a twin transition. And this is really the bedrock of all the digital infrastructure investment we are pursuing. So we will never move forward on a project that would strain the local grid, or that would, that's not the philosophy, definitely, from when we source project, when we try to reach out to companies, or to explore what is feasible together with consultancy and experts on the ground. And then as we grow the project, we bringing some expertise. We have in Europe, for instance, our researchers that have developed a code of conduct on data center energy efficiency. So we have some steps that we have taken. We know our geographies are different, of course, with African countries and region, but nonetheless, we have put efforts into looking at the sustainable energy consumption of the different data centers. Likewise, about all the other environmental impacts, be it water or reuse of material, and also the skills element. How do you grow around a data center, what we call a 360 dimension? How do you bring in this element that really help local companies, local communities to fully benefit? So that's really consubstantial to any investment we're going to do. You see, we often approach things like in an integrated manner. It's very important for us that we come in to derisk or facilitate investment in the hardware or in some software pieces, but as well in the layer that are in terms of innovation ecosystem, the matchmaking of companies that are in the digital sector, so that they grow faster together. They know where to source talents and link up with other actors in the same value chain. So that's really the spirit of Global Gateway. And again, we can count on very dynamic member state experiences. How much the digital sector has boomed in Estonia, in multiple countries. It's really irrigating what we bring to our partners.
I wanted to touch on the topic that you mentioned on especially data centers. When you think about data centers, it's not just kind of a question in the African continent about the sustainability and consuming the grid, and the emissions and all that. I think it's a global debate. Even in Finland at the moment, where I'm from, there's huge debate on data centers, and whether we can actually take in these 10 billion worth investments from Google's and Microsoft's and TikTok's and stuff like that. So it's definitely a sensitive area of investments. Is there something else you want to say about how to kind of tackle that sensitivity?
I think there's the macro picture, whereby we are fully cognizant of the level of greenhouse gas emission that are related to the energy consumption of data centers, for sure. We cannot leave this unchecked. This is what the international energy agencies are encouraging us, all of us, to look at. From the EU side, we are very committed to decreasing our own emissions. So we are not certainly not be ignoring that question, but again, what I want to insist upon is that we are looking into what can we do in practice, because it's really imperative that partners in Africa have an access to data center that's going to help them in turn, develop a solution for early warning system. If there is a climate extreme event happening, or it's really we need also the digital transformation in order to achieve all the sustainable development goals, including the environmental ones. So this is really important for us at a macro level, and more concretely, we put together tools so that we can tackle that challenge in practice. So, there was a diff event, for instance, at Africa Tech in Cape Town, where we unpacked together, some training materials. Okay, how can we look at that in practice? How can we leapfrog together to more energy efficient data centers, smarter integration with whatever energy investments can be planned? Yeah, we are serious about that, and we are keen to learn as well.
Then I would like to backtrack a little bit to Global Gateway. Um, should have had that question in the beginning, but first, is Global Gateway, is that a strategy or an initiative or project, or how, like, under which umbrella it falls?
It's a strategy. So it's really setting the political framework, the sense of direction, and it's a strategy, as I said, for the European Union and all our 27 uh, member states, countries. So this is really important to align our efforts, our resource, our financial instruments, our outreach from public and private actors, from civil society as well, so that we all know in which direction we are pulling. And for digital, yes, it's human-centric digital transformation investments.
Definitely. And could you speak about some of the key numbers of Global Gateway? How big of a strategy is this? And yeah.
So overall, the strategy aims to mobilize 300 billion investments globally, with around half of that in Africa. There's really a strong emphasis on Africa throughout the Global Gateway strategy, and for us particularly for digital infrastructure, because the aim is to bridge the digital divide and really leapfrog to what digital transformation enable to do for jobs, for growth, sustainable growth in the country. So that's the ballpark figure. And then underneath that, it's important to really take into account that Global Gateway aims to leverage private sector investment. It's the intention is to use development assistance funding in ways that really make the biggest possible impacts on investment. That's why we have developed some specific tools in the toolbox, on top of the instruments we knew in the past, like grants or budget support, but we have added to our array of tools instruments like guarantees. For instance, there's one guarantee that is implemented by FinFund that is very powerful. It's called Africa Connect, and through that, FinFund is derisking and lending to multiple companies, for instance, to cassava, to fiber companies across the continent, and we can do more. We are really just at the beginning. We are we are mobilizing venture capital as well, together with member states. We are putting together funding for innovative AI solutions. So it's a combination. We pull from the toolbox whichever tool we need, that so that it unlocks this investment that we are after. But that's why from the very core we have European private sector involved, either as, if you like, tech provider, or as also partner investor.
So that's actually a good bridge to dive deeper into the finance part. obviously access to finance is a major barrier in the continent. So how is the EU exactly helping to de-risk and attract investment for digital infrastructure in Africa?
This is a big question.
Mm.
um, so, as I said, we work together with financial institutions. So across member states. So I mentioned FinFund. We also work with Proparco from France. We work with GDP from Italy, DG and KfW from Germany, etc., etc. We really pull in the different institutions we have because each of these have developed a certain expertise, a network in the sector, a trust from different investors. So that's why we are relying on multiple partners. Some are present in different geographies. So we really we combine our strength. And then, banks do their work as banks. They look at pipeline of projects, and when they see, for instance, I mentioned at the beginning the secure connectivity subsea cable between Europe, Africa, and India. We bring in an element of grant to make sure that for segments or for certain element of costs that are just a pure market failure where you couldn't get the investment on the market, we come in with an element of grant to facilitate this investment happening. Or we take first loss in a number of a fund to be able to cater for very innovative segments. So it's per instrument per area, but we really see that digital transformation investment needs that complete toolbox to happen.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, that de-risking is such an important tool to attract that investment into the continent, especially those market failure countries or close to that.
And
When I
that's why
started,
I wanted to bring back, sorry to cut you, Ville. It's the role of the diff. We, I don't know, I will send you the link to where companies can, reach out to diff if they have a project proposal and they want an advice, because this has to be really tailor-made in a way. You have a certain large-scale investment you want to realize. You need to interact with our team of experts and colleagues in the diff, for instance, and they can work out with you in your business plan. Is there any element in our toolbox that would help to de-risk for a certain part of your investment? We can't support every possible investment idea. That's very clear, but there are somewhere we can play a role.
definitely, and having worked 1 year now with the diff, we are starting to see which investments are realistic, which ones we should also prioritize, and which one we believe that will then be at some point ready for investment. So you learn a lot when you do. Uh, then there is something that I have been hearing since I started with diff. So it's a combination of letters, EFSD plus. So how is EFSD plus supporting data centers and related projects? What it is and how is it supported?
So EFSD Plus a certain modality to use resource that we have under the Global Europe budget line, if you like, of the EU budget, where we convert the funding we have on the EU budget into an innovative financial instruments that can have a big leverage on private sector investment. I'm trying to put it in a layman's term. I'm grossly simplifying the instrument, but it's
No,
just
that's
to
good.
give
That's good.
the general. And then we do call for proposal. The different financial institution apply and tell us based on their knowledge of the market. Okay, look, for digital infrastructure investment, we have a particular issue with equity, with a certain type of risk coverage, etc. And we assess, and that's how FinFund put in place this guarantee system, guarantee that is funded by EFSD Plus, and that helps to realize a first pipeline of investment from 5G, from energy efficient cell towers for the first investment, but there are many more coming.
So let's then look into the horizon. So what's the long-term vision for digital cooperation between EU and Africa?
That it grows very fast. um, we are really excited to see, for instance, in we are preparing right now. Next week, it's going to be the EU Africa Union ministerial meeting, and immediately as we were conducting preparation together with African counterparts on the topic of digital transformation, how we can collaborate on that was very high on the agenda. We are preparing for multiple events across Africa. There's Transform Africa Summit that Smart Africa is organizing. There is, it's we really see that appetite. Our colleagues on the ground in the different EU delegation, they get back to us. There's a strong appetite in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Togo, Senegal, etc. So we respond to this uh, interest from partner governments about finding uh, an integrated approach that works for the local geographies and for what we can do together with member states.
Is there some kind of a like really concrete success story you could share from the EU Africa digital cooperation so far? Something that you feel especially proud of?
So I would give still two if you allow me. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
you can
give
even
one
give three.
example. Yeah. Okay. Super. Um, so I would start by the collaboration we have with Nigeria. So here we jointly agreed that we would do what we call a digital economy package with Nigeria, meaning that we intervene at the different layers, at the infrastructure layer, working together on subsea cable connectivities as well as local fiber network. Plus that we will support the government plans to really grow very significantly the pool of digitally skilled experts, plus work on cybersecurity strengthening. So it's really this integrated approach. We look at all the bricks that can strengthen Nigeria digital transformation, and we grow the house brick by brick, if you like, together and across European actors, from European Investment Bank to member state colleagues to even also to the World Bank, or we really build a strong house together. And the second example I want to highlight again is this Blue Raman subsea cable I was mentioning between Africa and Asia, because we want to do more of that type of investment, hopefully along the western coast of Africa as well. It's an important project for us because it's integrative as well. If when you develop connectivity throughout all along the coast, also thinking of how landlocked countries are going to be able to connect on that new secure link, then it's truly a foundational step that help many countries at once to leapfrog forward. And at the same time, it's really an area where we need to step in as international partner and as EU, because there's huge coordination cost. It's this multi-country, multi-region project. The market has difficulty to do it by itself. So that's really a type of infrastructure where teaming up private sector investments, tech champions from Europe, can really pull together and make project happen faster in a way that works for the country. Yeah. And yeah, because I will have many examples, I will also mention space.
Good.
We have just launched together in Cairo back in April, the Africa Space Agency and the Africa EU Space Partnership. This is 100 million grant from our side. This is really massive because we do believe Africa as has a great potential to develop the space connectivity, the space and Earth observation application, and yeah, this is another major axis of our long-term collaboration.
That's amazing. That's really really powerful. Yeah, group of projects that you are pushing. Then I wanted to ask. You mentioned about partnerships. I recently spoke with Smart Africa. I know there's the EU Smart Africa collaboration between the organizations and or institutions, but then you also mentioned World Bank. You didn't mention IFC, but I'm asking: are these the kind of organizations EU can also collaborate with and build together?
Okay. On World Bank, it was a shorthand. It was World Bank Group. So definitely, we collaborate with IFC very closely. Um, Absolutely, all of these projects I've mentioned, they are large scale, so they require that we co-finance and we come in together. Yes, Smart Africa, absolutely. We are extremely happy and proud that we have an administrative arrangement that allow us to really share experience in a close manner, um, be it on our regulatory context, but also how to facilitate local ecosystem development, to have sandboxing of certain type of approaches. So yeah, it's a very important partner for us, and we are happy to see Smart Africa definitely growing its footprint, having more and more countries in members in Smart Africa also putting their hand up and saying, "I want to be a champion for a certain dimension of the digital transformation." So looking forward to next step on that.
So since I represent the digital investment facility and we focus mostly on data centers, I must ask, why should we care about African data centers?
Um, So data centers are the things you don't see, but are really taking care of your essential resources, your data, your access to the global connectivity in a secure manner. So it's really your little guardian angel, if you like. So it's absolutely essential that African countries can rely on regional or national or local capacity, whether it's most efficient from an energy point of view and from a secure connectivity point of view. So we do care. We are many who care in on the European side, on the Team Europe side. So we can't wait to connect more together and to see them generate an amazing range of application for intra-Africa e-commerce, for secure e-payments, for AI for good, for public good. This is really the companion we need on this very long journey.
Yes, working on the ground with the data centers here on the continent, I could definitely confirm that EU is really really stepping up with our presence in that space, and we have some really exciting projects that we are itching to talk about more with Digital Investment Facility. Hopefully, they'll see the light of the day in the near future, and we can do a bit of publicity about them as well. But that's it from my side today. Is there something that you would want to share as the last words?
Just check the link to the digital investment facility so that we can get in touch about concrete projects, because that's what we are after. And I look forward to the next episode of the podcast to learn more.
Ariane Labat, thank you.
Thank you, Villa.
This podcast is part of the Data Governance in Africa initiative, helping the African Union shape data policies, enable cross-border data flows, and build secure, sustainable digital infrastructure. Funded by the EU and 5 member states, it supports a unified digital market in Africa.